guys, what's going on? Abby here, and today the day is finally here. We've got a radiation Moze coming at you right now. This is my latest Moze build for Mayhem 10. This build is centered around doing lots of radiation damage. It is amazing for mobbing. It's also really great for bossing because we have a new weapon in the cartel event called the Yellow Cake, and damn, this gun is just crazy overpowered right now. RAD God is also a Deathless build, so we're going to be using the Bloodletter with the Deathless. And while we're on the topic, let me just give you a breakdown of the gear right now so you guys can start putting your farming list together. Number one on the list, we've got the Chaos in. This gun is amazing. This one came to us with the 2.0 update, so this is a permanent new legendary in the game. You can get it from Captain Trant. You have to be on Mayhem 6 or higher, and this gun actually does splash damage, so it hits the initial hit, places the sticky, and then the stickies explode. So this is going to be great because we're speccing into splash damage. And then the anointment you're going to want to look for on this gun is while under 50% health, deal 150% bonus radiation damage. Also important for the Chaosin is to find one with full auto. I tried the full auto and the burst. The burst is okay, but full auto is definitely going to be better to use in this scenario. The second weapon on our list is going to be the OPQ system. This gun is really OP, and it is even more amazing on Moze because we get that splash damage. So the OPQ system, if you guys didn't know, does a shock splash. So because it's so powerful, the anointment we're looking for on the OPQ system is actually the gain 300% increased weapon damage against enemies above 90% health. We're going to use this Q system on tankier enemies, enemies that have multiple health bars, and even bosses. Plus, because we're using some for the road, we can do that cool fun trick where we can bust out about 20 of the drones. You guys can see the clip here of when we did that on stream. By the way, speaking of that, we created this entire build on my Twitch channel at like 3 in the morning. It got us so hype building this on stream and experiencing it for the first time that our stream went like 4 hours overtime, and it was really insane. So if you guys ever want to be a part of that, you can definitely go over there, twitch.tv/AbbyHour. I stream on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at 8 p.m. But back to the gear, we've got our third weapon slot here. I chose the Soul Render. Of course, you guys can switch it up if you want, but I would recommend going with splash damage weapons because we are going to be speccing into a lot of splash damage. The Soul Render comes from the second DLC, so if you don't have the second DLC, just use a Kibsworth or some other kind of splash weapon in its place. You could even have a Scourge in here as well, since we are specced into some for the road. But I really like the Soul Render because it is a really nice AR, but you also get the skulls as splash damage, and they also home in on targets. And then for our fourth weapon, the final one right here, definitely not the least out of the four, is the Yellow Cake. And this one comes from the cartel event. So it will be going away in 6 weeks, so get it while you can. This gun is insane. It works really well on every Vault Hunter. It's really powerful right now, but especially on Moze because we are speccing into radiation damage, we're speccing into splash damage, and it's just going to make those explosions bigger, more powerful, and stronger against every single enemy. This gun is awesome. It one-shots Trant, as you guys saw, and in some mobbing areas you can actually just use the Yellow Cake, so you don't even have to switch to other weapons. However, I did notice in Slaughter Shaft doing it on Mayhem 10 with the cartel event on, so we're getting more ads spawning in, I was running out of ammo towards like the 4th and 5th rounds. We do have some ammo sustain, but not enough for how quickly this weapon can shoot. You could kind of mitigate that by trying to find a ×1, so don't find a ×2 Yellow Cake if you want a little bit lower damage. If you're looking to mob with it more and less as a boss killer, the ×2 is great as a boss killer. The ×1 is better if you're trying to mob with enemies, but for both of them, you want to look for gain 300% increased weapon damage against enemies above 90% health. All right, guys. On to the shield. We're going to be looking for the Old God shield with radiation resistance, which is going to give us 20% radiation damage. That's how we're going to be boosting all of our anointments and our Yellow Cake weapon. This particular one that I have has on action skill end gain bonus radiation damage, but you could also switch it up and try for a different element on the action skill end to have some diversity there. It's not necessary to have that action skill end bonus radiation damage. Also, I think that my ideal old god would be 1 absorb perk and 2 turtle perks. Because we're going deathless, turtle is going to be the best because it doesn't matter if we get minus health, we're already at 1 HP anyway. So turtle is going to give us 40% shield per perk. So we would get 80% shield if we had a double turtle on here, and then if we get absorb, that helps us keep up with the ammo consumption, and that's why I think that would be best. I haven't started farming for old gods yet since the update. If you don't have an old god, you could also use a front loader. You're going to miss out on the 20% radiation damage, but you'll get a nice healthy shield, which is what we're looking for in a deathless build. The other thing that's important about this old god shield, which we'll get into later when we look at the modifiers that I prefer for this build, but the 25% elemental damage resistance is super important as well. That comes standard on the old god. Alright guys, now for the class mod, we're using the Bloodletter. Of course, we're going a deathless build, so we want all of our healing to be put into our shields. You also want to look for one that has 3 into Desperate Measures and 2 into Phalanx Doctrine. If you don't have that, look for more into Phalanx Doctrine. That's going to help you with your mobbing because you're going to be getting shield stacks and damage stacks. And then the perks on there, we want to look for splash damage and heavy damage, or your specific weapon type damage. So in this case, maybe I would go SMG or AR, heavy damage, splash damage, weapon damage, all good things. You'd even get some critical damage in there as well. SMG critical would be great for the Chaos In. And then one thing to note with the weapon magazine size, it's actually a bit of a double-edged sword here because I do like magazine size on my weapons. However, on COV weapons like the yellow cake, it's actually going to increase the heat per shot. So weapon magazine size on your class mod and your artifact actually increases the heat per shot of COV weapons, therefore reducing the time it takes to overheat, which is bad. So we can normally get 4 to 6 shots out of the yellow cake before we overheat it. So you just kind of have to make sure you're not spamming it and try to use it in big groups so you can clear out a lot of enemies at once and you don't have to just pick off all the little guys. On to our artifact, we're going to be using the Atom Bomb Deathless. This is going to put us to 1 HP. It's going to give us additional shield capacity, which is great because our shield is already pretty high. And then for perks, this one is pretty damn perfect. We're going to look for heavy damage, area of effect damage, and radiation damage. I was also using a different Atom Bomb Deathless prior to this one, and it was working really well as well. So you don't have to have the perfect perk. And then for our grenade, we're going to be using the cloning mounting tracker. You don't have to use the cloning mounting tracker. Just look for something with divider, merv, mini mervs, splitting grenades, you know, all that stuff. We just want to get as many hits with our grenade as possible so that we can proc pull the holy pin. We have a 10% chance to crit hit. This is going to help us regen ammo and gain health, which will be converted into shields with Bloodletter. Alright guys, moving on to the skill tree. I'm going to pop it up here in case you guys want a screenshot, save it for later. I'll put the text version down below to BL3 zone if you want to bookmark that as well. Let's go ahead and start in the Shield of Retribution. I think the orange tree is pretty standard. Nothing much I want to explain here except for Desperate Measures. The reason why we want to get +3 into our Bloodletter is because that puts us at 6 out of 3 Desperate Measures, which gives us a gun damage of 100% all the time because our HP is always at 1. Over to the green tree, I just want to mention a couple things. We did go 5 out of 5 into Scrappy, and that is because they just buffed this skill for Moze and they added weapon damage to it. So we get a 30% flat weapon damage with this skill, which is great. And we get handling and swap speed as well. And then the other skill that we went into here that has been updated is Russian Offensive. So they added an 8% lifesteal to Russian Offensive. And at first I thought that this was super clunky because you can't start running after you've started shooting. It was just kind of a weird perk to use until I realized that Russian Offensive works with your grenade damage and with damage over time. You can pop off a few shots, get that elemental damage over time because we're using radiation damage, and radiation damage has the longest tick out of any other element, and it also spreads to other enemies. So if you're mobbing, there's a high likelihood that you are doing tick damage all over the place, especially if you're using that yellow cake. So it's really easy just to shoot a couple yellow cake shots and then run around and get your full shields back. And then all the way down here at the bottom, we did get some for the road. I feel like this helps immensely with bossing. It also allows us to use that OPQ alternate fire and get 20 drones out at once, which is super fun. This skill also allows us to keep up our heavy ammo so we can cycle in and out of Iron Bear to get unlimited shots on that yellow cake. But honestly, when I'm mobbing, I don't really even use Iron Bear right now. If you guys didn't know, right now in the current state of the game, when Mayhem 2.0 came out last Thursday and the action skill damage is not really scaling, so Iron Bear seems a little useless in Mayhem 10. So I wanted to make a build that wasn't as reliant on action skill end because it feels really bad having to get in and out of Iron Bear and not even kill anything. So I really just use some for the road if I'm running low on ammo or if I am using a quickie while bossing. And then finally onto the blue tree, pretty self-explanatory as well. Another buffed skill for Moze in Torg cross promotion. This skill is going to also now increase our splash damage as well as the chance to double the radius. All of our guns are doing splash, so it's only adding more damage. And then we are using auto bear just to get that target softening here. We're using the Vanquisher pods with target softening. That's going to allow us to do 15% more damage to the enemies, but it's not really necessary if you are not even wanting to get in and out of bear. And then one into pull the holy pin, which I explained earlier about the crit hit chance in order to get our ammo back. And that is the skill tree for RAD God. So next we're actually going to take a look at the modifiers I like to use with this build on Mayhem 10, so you guys can try to roll these as well, or I'll tell you the ones that I think are really good. First up, we've got the easy modifier. I use Speed Demon. It is so much fun. Honestly, I feel like I'm playing Zane or Amara with this Speed Demon modifier. Basically, your movement speed is increased when you get a kill, and it stacks up to 3 times. The medium modifier, I'm using the Healy Avenger, which is the enemies have a chance upon death to release a power-up that will heal the first enemy it touches. We have enough splash damage and enough AoE that we don't really have to worry about these things. I hardly even see them, and we get shield boosters on the ground if they're destroyed, which is a great bonus for us because we're already deathless. For the hard modifier, I would recommend Pool Party. Enemies are going to drop different elemental pools when their armor, shields, or health are depleted. This also happens when you melee anointed as well. And if you guys remember earlier, I told you about the old god shield gives us 25% elemental resistance. So that perk combined with the fact that we're moving so quickly, I don't really even notice the damage from the elemental pools. If you notice yourself stopping and taking a lot of elemental damage, then you could definitely change this one up. It's not necessary. However, I do think it would be pretty amazing if you had some shield boosters and use this modifier, because this modifier drops shield boosters constantly. I was using it with Big Boom Blaster and it was awesome. So that might be integrated into a future build. And then for the very hard modifier, I went with Buddy System, which can be kind of annoying at times because sometimes the invulnerability drone gets stuck inside a building or on the other side of a wall, and it can slow down your progress a little bit. But as long as they're out in the open, you can usually hit them down with the yellow cake or with your splash damage will actually bust the immunity drones as well. So obviously you guys can use whatever modifiers you want, but I would highly recommend Speed Demon. It's super fun, especially on Moze, who doesn't really get to experience much of the movement speed that other Vault Hunters like Amara and Zane get to experience. It's also really fun just to shoot the yellow cake and run around super fast. Just make sure you don't run into your own shots. The playstyle I've been using with this build is just to mostly use the yellow cake and run around one-shotting everything. Of course, you could play it a little bit safer and not go down quite as much as I do sometimes from my own increased splash radius. And you could use that Chaos In. That's another main weapon of mine that I use. There are also really great heavy weapons like the Plague Bear and the Backburner, which were just added to the game as well, that could be potential splash weapons for Moze that I haven't tried out yet. But just play around with it, see if you like it. Let me know in the comments below if you guys tried it out. And if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button if you want to see more Borderlands 3 content, mostly educational and build videos. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.